This is the second week of our educational webinar series. If you were with us last week, you heard from my colleague Annika. She covered domain and web hosting. There are a few weeks throughout September after this session as well, but I'll go over that schedule at the end of the presentation. Today we're going to talk about establishing your brand story and voice. My name is Mallory. I'm on the field marketing team here at Zoho. I've been with Zoho for about 3 years now. Zoho's been around for over 20. We have over 50 applications, so there really is something for every need, every department of your business. I'm personally located in our Austin, Texas office. My team is in Pleasanton, California, but our headquarters is in India, and we have offices around the world. Before we dive into the presentation, I wanted to give a quick overview of navigating Zoho Showtime. So that's the application you're currently looking at and using for this webinar. It is one of our applications. There's a few tabs on the left side of the screen you need to pay the most attention to. So it'll be the questions, polls, chats, and handouts. Any questions you have for me or for my co-trainers, my colleagues are on this session as well. We'll be answering questions throughout the webinar, but at the end, there'll be a quick Q&A as well. If I remember to launch a poll, pay attention to that. It'll pop up on your screen, but to view the results and all that, you can see that in your tab as well. If you want to introduce yourself to the other people that have joined the webinar or just communicate, feel free to send some chats. That's where my co-trainers will be hanging out as well, and they'll be providing some links and stuff as I refer to different products or articles throughout the webinar. And there's also a document that has been linked in the handouts tab. Feel free to download this. It has some links on there to the products, articles, some of the research I used for this presentation. All that can be there. You can find that useful. So to go ahead and dive into the presentation, in this first half, we're going to be covering establishing your brand story and how that determines your brand voice and how you use it to also attract your target audience, which will kind of lead us into selecting keywords and how to optimize search engine results. This will take us right into the second half of the presentation, where we'll be tying all of these concepts together and how they affect website traffic and engagement across your site. So just a few quick definitions to get us going. Brand story, so this is exactly who you are, what you're here to do. Brand voice, this is how you tell your story. Think of this as like the personality of your company, your website. Target audience, this is a specific group of people that you're planning for your product or service to appeal the most to, and probably who you're marketing the most heavily towards. I have a quick example of each of these points before we dive into them separately. So this is a company called Duluth Trading Co. Their website does a really good job of implementing each of these points. As you can see, this isn't their, about us page or anything like that, but you have a really good idea of what they're here to do and what their goal is as a company. So through their story, there's got to be a better way. You can also see that same voice and language across all of their other web pages. So they kind of stick to their values, their mission. They make all of that very clear using their voice. And you also have an idea of who their target audience is. You can imagine they're hard workers, outdoorsmen. You can see that their solution here and what they're here to do is to cleverly solve workday problems. So brand story. This is, again, what you're here to do and why you're doing it. But it also portrays what you want people to gather from working with your company. Your story is meant to engage your audience and evoke an emotional response in order to build trust with them. So your values and mission statements stem from the story, and these are the things that resonate and create alignment with your customers. Personally, I seek out an understanding of the story and the values behind a company before I work with them myself. So whether I'm looking for a product that's like eco-friendly or local, something like that. So on this slide, I have a quick example of a brand story behind Wanello. I actually circle back to this slide later in the presentation on the About Us portion, but they do a really good job of giving you an idea of who this company is and what they're here to do. So the problem they saw in their industry and how they're going to solve it. So Wanello is like an online shopping application, like on your phone. It's similar idea of like Etsy or Amazon, but it's a little bit different. So you can see in the story, the founder, Dina, was frustrated with traditional malls. She wanted to shop at more unique places. So she created a social network that you could shop these places from anywhere online. So you might be wondering why your story is so important. So this story is what sets you apart from other companies in your industry. I assume that you plan on doing things differently than your competitors. So this story is what is unique and declares what you saw was needed in your industry and what you're doing to solve that. So not only does it set you apart, but it also determines everything else about your company. So for example, your brand voice. Remember, this is essentially the personality of your company. So as a consumer, it's kind of like the vibes or the energy you get when you interact with a brand or come across their website. So it's that feel and that impression that you're left with when you are interacting with them. And remember, as a company, this is creating an emotional experience for your consumer that you don't get to control. So, I mean, for example, personally, I've landed on, websites or something when I'm shopping for a product or a service, and I just don't feel like I jive well with that company. So I'm sure, you might have done something similar. And remember, though, when it comes to this, that this is kind of jumping ahead a bit, but in terms of target audience, don't expect for your voice to appeal to everyone. As we'll dive into target audience, you'll get a better understanding of what I mean by that. So I have a few examples of some well-known, recognizable voices. The reason these voices are so well known and recognizable, it's not even that you know the history or the story behind the brand, but it's because of the collection of interactions you've had with the company. So whether that's like on social media or personally, through employee interactions, billboards, commercials, all of those things contribute to that feeling you get when you work with a company. So for this first example, of course, is Apple. So very, innovative, sleek. They're straight to the point, but they have a very strong mission, and you know what that is when you interact with them. For my second example, probably don't even have to tell you who this is, but Geico, of course, all of their commercials, their advertisements, they're typically like very relatable, they're memorable, they probably make you laugh. And they stick with you. You know that this company has your best interest in mind, and they appeal to you very well in that way. And I'm sure, when you see this lizard, you automatically think 15 minutes could save you 15%. So before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and start the poll. So I just launched it. You should see this on your screen. But I think these, awesome. Great, I'm seeing some results in here too. But yeah, you'll be able to refer to this after the presentation too. So this can be kind of helpful when it comes to, developing your own voice and being able to pull some examples from this. Great, you'll have a really great idea of what I'm talking about here. Perfect, so we have like Nike, Lulu, Verizon, Uber, Patagonia, Target. This is great. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll, or show the results at least. Okay, so we'll go right back in to the presentation. So how to effectively use your voice. Think of what your face-to-face delivery would sound like. So a few ways to do this would be definitely let your personality shine through. So remember that, what works for other companies might not work for yours. So definitely keeping in mind your values, your story, your mission statement, and kind of evolve from there. Be consistent. So be using this voice across all platforms. People should kind of, when they hear or see, interact with your brand, they should have an idea of kind of the company behind that. And let evolution take its course. So as your company grows, time, feedback, all of that stuff will be changing, and just make sure that you're not trying too hard to stay to the same sound that you might have started with. Definitely evolve and make adaptations as you need to. So I have on these next few slides an example of BarkBox. They do a great job executing each of these points. So you can see here they have a very strong, prominent voice, and it's also very consistent. So across all platforms, web pages, they all are very silly. They have the same puns, and you can see they've evolved as well. So this was, 4 years ago. Pun game strong, and then here we are 2020, and they're just more confident, more strong, and sure of themselves. And I wanted to just quickly side note that, this is Nike, and they are just as strong of a voice, if not more so. And I know that a lot of my slides kind of refer to humor in terms of your voice, but stick with your strengths. Not all industries, companies, or products, that might not be appropriate. So find, again, your voice, what works for you. In this case, Nike, they stick to a more serious, inspirational tone, and they do a really great job. All right, so target audience. Remember, this is that specific group of people that you're planning for your product or service to appeal the most to. So while your story and your target audience's story is determining your voice is also determining your target audience. So just remember that all of these factors are working together. So to clarify your target audience, you need to understand your customer and your behavior. So who are they? Are they a particular gender? What are their traits? What are they doing every day? What are their struggles? How are they consuming information? And also understand the current condition of your industry. So what is lacking? What's already being met? Where can your niche be? So looking through like competitor web pages, product reviews, customer complaints, social media, all of these things can help you find trends and seasonality to this. So we've covered these definitions so far, and you might be wondering what this has to do with your website. The answer is everything. So your voice is emotionally establishing your story, which is resonating with the consumer. This attracts your target audience, and that drives website traffic. So your voice is ultimately impacting the influx and engagement of people on your web pages. So this takes us right into our next topic, SEO. So if you were with us last week, my colleague Annika briefly touched on this in her presentation. It really is a beast of an animal, though, so we won't be going too far into it today, but it is a huge buzzword in the marketing industry right now, so I definitely wanted to bring it up and how it pertains to all of these concepts. So SEO is search engine optimization. It's exactly what that is. Optimizing search engine results to work in your favor by bringing your content, your web pages to the forefront of the results organically. So not by typing in a URL, not by paid advertisements, as you can see here with the little bold ad. It's by as a consumer being able to type in these keywords, online document, or whatever you're searching for, and it automatically pull up these results completely organically. So how to optimize? You need to understand what your target audience is searching for online in order to provide compelling, valuable content in the format they're looking for. So knowing this will drive actionable items for you and your company because you know what kind of content is being sought after. So for example, if I'm a chef and I'm writing a cookbook, my following, wants to recreate my recipes. The best way for me to share this information with them is probably, in the form of like a web page or on a blog post, as opposed to like a video or voice memo or something like that. Because as they're recreating the recipe in their kitchen, they need to be able to refer to it. However, if I'm like a hairstylist or something, sharing with my following how to create this hairstyle would definitely be best in a visual format. So like YouTube or TikTok, something like that. So you might be wondering where you find your keywords. Before we go into this, I did want to mention what I mean by keywords. So I know that for example, back in the day when I was taught how to use Google, keywords were literally you type in a word, a comma, and then another word, and this is how you found content. Technology's come a long way since then. So now it's much more contextual. So, we do talk to Siri or text to talk. We ask Google sentences, and it is able to find what we're looking for. So when I mention keywords, this can be a word, it can be a phrase or a sentence fragment. These are all pertaining to the same thing. So to find your own keywords, the best way to do this is find which words people are already naturally referring to your product or service with. So anyone like in your target audience that has found you and your product, their language is probably similar to what new consumers that are looking for the same solutions are using. So the best places to look would be anywhere you've had like employee customer interactions. So really people who may not have, the industry jargon or that same professional terms that you might use. So maybe social media would be a good place, emails, customer reviews, all these spots are good places to find words that make the most sense for what you offer. Just a side note about these 3 tools. I've linked these on the handouts too, but what they do, Zoho is in no way affiliated to these products. I don't use them personally. I just wanted to mention that they do exist. So what they do is find for you unsaturated keywords. So for example, if your competitor is Nike, and they're putting out content that would be similar to yours, because they're such a big company and have a big following, the likelihood of their content reaching the forefront of the search engine results is much higher than yours might be. So what these tools do is actually find keywords for you that are similar, that are still being searched, that aren't as heavily saturated. So here's an example that really stresses the importance of keywords and SEO and how this all plays together. So this is Zucchini Kill Bakery here in Austin. They offer vegan, gluten-free, and soy-free baked goods. You can see as a consumer, if I was to search bakeries, Austin, Texas, Zucchini Kill pulls up on page 7 of the results. I don't know about y'all, but I don't click past 2, so I would never find Zucchini Kill. However, as a consumer, if I was to search gluten-free bakeries, because that's what I'm needing, Zucchini Kill, because they have implemented these keywords and really optimized their website content for SEO, they are now located on page 1. So that's huge, and it makes a big difference. So some best practices for using your keywords. Ensure they're organic. So like we talked about, making sure they're natural. You should not be trying to make any keywords work. They should automatically already be what your content's about. Distribute them appropriately, so making sure they're sprinkled throughout all of your different pages and kind of sticking to the same theme. Don't be overstuffing. So this, I'm sure we've all seen it, is very clickbaity. It's very spammy. In the long run, it actually penalizes you. So for example, algorithms on search engines no longer only rank your content higher by how many people are visiting your site, but it's also how long they're staying there. So if people are just clicking over because they think, you're providing an answer for them, but it's really just a bunch of crazy keywords and they jump right off, this is only going to harm and penalize your ranking. So this is an example of what that looks like. I'm sure we've all seen something similar. It's very unpleasant and you're probably not walking away with, much more than you originally read it with. All right, so now we have officially covered the first half of the presentation and how all of these concepts work together. So now we're going to pull this all into the second half of the presentation, so how this is affecting website traffic and engagement across your pages. So as we all know, website visitors can come to our site from many different entry points. Today we're going to just focus on two of these, mainly because they are essentially free, but also they are places for you to really emphasize these concepts we've talked about, so like your voice. All right, so for this first one is business blog. You might have just rolled your eyes or shrugged your shoulders. I know that's what I did when I first came across the idea of businesses blogging. But think of this from a consumer perspective. This is awesome. So me personally, anytime I'm planning a trip or scoping out a new restaurant or wanting to start a new skincare routine, something like that, I love searching things and it pulling up quality content from a person's personal perspective. So I get a lot of context, what are the other options out there? What's the industry like? I get all of this information from somebody essentially speaking to me as opposed to reading a sales pitch or something on a product page. So apparently I'm not alone in this preference. We all like this. And I have a quick example here of what this kind of looks like. So these featured snippets, this is basically what these results look like when you're searching something in Google. So if I was to ask Google this question, this content is coming straight from a blog post. I love seeing my answer like this. And as a consumer, that is very helpful too, because while I'm getting this answer right away, it's easy, it's already found for me. I can now click onto this site if I want to learn more about it. And lucky for Hikers Shop, I am now a potential consumer because they also sell hiking boots. So as you can see, the blog is a great gateway into your site. All right, so these are just a few benefits of having a blog. As you can imagine, there's a ton. This workbook that I pulled these from is actually linked on the handout as well. But as you can see, as a company, you're increasing visibility and brand awareness on your site. So this is free content marketing towards your target audience. Your customer is receiving educational information and they're getting a feel for who you are as a company, but also what you can provide. All right, so for both you and your company, a benefit, of course, is now making you a go-to resource. And as you can imagine, your customer now having access to all these free resources, now they're more familiar with your company, but also they might be kind of thinking in the back of their head, I'm getting all of this information for free. How much more could I get if I was to pay for this product or service? Another benefit would be also providing a next step. So you're able to guide your customer to the next action you're wanting them to take. So this is referring to like a CTA or a call to action. I'm not going to go into this. This is actually something my colleague Tyler is going to be covering in a couple of weeks. But what it is in the sense of a blog post would be maybe at the end being able to have an event registration form or a newsletter sign up. You can link out to another page. So those are all kind of examples of what a CTA could look like. So this takes us right into the About Us page because, I mean, as a consumer, I don't typically just seek out more information and background about a company unless I'm considering purchasing the product or service from them. So what your About Us page should accomplish. A clarification of your mission and values. So remember what we talked about with your story and how the goal is to establish that emotional connection with your customer. So be sure to stress your traits and what you stand for so that you paint a clear picture and create alignment between you and your target audience. It should also offer an understanding of your purpose. People want to know what you're hoping to accomplish as a company and how you plan to help them. So instead of just stating what you do, state why you do it. Customers want to understand your vision as a whole. So building your About Us page. Remember, while this page is, of course, about you and your company, consumers are going here because they want to see what's really in it for them as a customer. So cut out any empty phrases and fluff. Nobody wants to hear how great you are. You know, they want to hear what makes you great and why. So everything you're providing on this page should be very straight to the point in the sense of letting customers walk away with their own opinion about your company. Turn limitations into positives. This one is huge, and I also think it's very often neglected. So for example, if you're a small company and your competitor is a big one, this doesn't just slip past the customer. You know, they know that y'all are competitors and you might be a smaller company. But this is your opportunity to state what you saw wasn't being met or, you know, what was lacking and what you're here to do differently and better. Just remember when you're building this page to adhere to these traits, so being honest, transparent, and relatable. Some elements to consider on your About Us page. So images, whether that's, you know, of the founders, behind the scenes, employees. This can be, you know, images, video, anything like that. But it offers some transparency into your company. Employee bios, so brief employee bios. These I've also seen in many different formats, but it offers a really humanistic touch. So like who is behind this brand and putting faces to it as opposed to just like a big logo. Your timeline. So this works well, you know, if you're a company that's been in the industry for a few years. This is actually Zoho's About Us page. It's a way for us to establish some reliability and longevity as a company and showcase what we've accomplished without coming across too braggy. And facts, of course, never underestimate the power of statistic. Numbers really can speak volumes. So also, of course, include your company vision, your mission statement, what you're hoping to achieve as a company. And remember, when it comes to these elements, don't feel like you need to include them all. You know, they're just some ideas of what you could put on your page to make it a little bit more interactive. And like some other ideas would be like customer testimonials, maybe like some big customers you work with, or any kind of like social proof or awards you've gotten. All of these things can work together to make a really good About Us page. So circling back to that slide before as promised, this is Winello. As you can see, it's not even an extravagant About Us page, but it is still getting the job done. You still have a really strong, this really strong story stated here. You have an image of the founder, and you're also seeing in this last paragraph just some facts, you know, like what she went through to create this company, you know, if it was a struggle, and then how it's become successful today. All right, so we have officially gone through, you know, your brand story, your brand voice, target audience, keywords and SEO, and how this affects website engagement and driving traffic to your pages. So when it comes to these concepts, just remember to evolve. So be flexible as technology changes, as you get feedback. Time will inspire you to make some changes. So definitely like make these as you need to, but be careful in the sense of some things don't do well with change up. So like your values, your mission statement, your logo, all of these things should definitely remain the same. So I wanted to wrap up today's presentation and kind of tie it into next week's. So integration of voice into content and design across your website. It creates a unified perception, which increases brand association, and this increases trust and loyalty. So consistency is really truly the key in brand loyalty, as people assume their expectations will be met in every interaction. So assuming you do your best to seek and retain customers, implementing all of these points presented will help you provide a fluid, similar experience for your customer each time. Awesome. So I wanted to just jump really quick over to Sales IQ. This is one of our products. I just wanted to give a quick demo over because now that we've covered the factors that make up your website and affect the influx of visitors to it, you're going to want a way to monitor this traffic and potentially engage with them. So there's a lot of products on the market that do this. Zoho even has a couple, but I'm going to show you this one really quick. Give me 1 second. Sorry for that crazy screen. Okay, so this is the back end of Zoho Sales IQ. So you can see here, this is actually me visiting from another window, but this is where you can see everyone on your website at once. So you can customize these rings to represent different things. Right now, it's based on how long someone's been on my site. So you can see this is me. I've been here for 4 hours now. But when I click it, I can see everything I need to know about this customer. So I can see that they're in America, they're using Chrome, they're using an Apple device. I can see that the chatbot has triggered. I can see how long they've been on my page and how many times they've been to it. So I can also interact with them directly right here if I want to chat them, if they haven't reached back out to me. But you can also see when you go over to visitor history, you can see everyone who's been on your site. I can see me here again, how many times I've come, how often I come. I can also see which pages of the website they've been on and for how long they've been there. So that's really cool. And as a customer, here I am on the front end of this website. This is Zoho's test website, just to demonstrate Sales IQ. This is the chatbot that has triggered. But if I go back over as an employee of Sales IQ, I can see, and interact with the customer via chatbot right here on this page. So that is just a very quick rundown of Sales IQ. But yeah, that is the end of today's presentation. I just wanted to thank you so much if you've made it this far with me. Hopefully you're walking away with something more than you came in with. But before we go into the Q&A, I did want to just share a few more resources. So these are the cover images of a few workbooks that I've provided on the handout, and I've referred to them a little bit throughout the presentation as well, but what they do is they each have more of like a hands-on guidance approach for helping you write your own content. So to tell your brand story, create your About Us page or blog content, these workbooks have like prompts and questions that'll help you kind of come up with this yourself.